Hey, record loving friends, it's Brian from tokyorecordstyle. Today I am making a special video of thanks to and for my friend Brian Fitzgerald, aka Fitz of Fitz Electric Bar, a great YouTube channel based out of Vancouver, Canada. Now, how did I become connected to Fitz? He participated in the Japan vinyl tag that I put forth a couple of months ago to commemorate my 20 years in Japan. He put forth a great list of 20 records. In the process of acknowledging and thanking him for supporting my channel and participating in the Japan vinyl tag, we became acquainted, and he made me aware that we have quite a lot in common. We have a similar taste in music. We've both been around the world, and we both have lived in Japan. Brian used to live here back in the 90s, even before I came here 20 years ago. And he has his own little Miss Nippon, who he took with him back to Vancouver, where they've been living for the last 20 plus years. And every year she gets back to Tokyo to see friends and family. And on occasion, Brian will hitch a ride and come to Tokyo and see his old stomping grounds. And I was very fortunate because on this last trip, he joined along and wrote to me and said, "Hey, I'll be in Tokyo. We should try to connect." And we did, and it was an absolute blast. Brian also reached out to an old homie of his from the Tokyo days, Simon, who is in Australia, who came up, and the three of us got together and went to the record bar, and we talked about music and Tokyo and about all kinds of fun stuff. Now, a month ago, at the end of October, was Canada Thanksgiving Day, and next week is Thanksgiving Day in America. They're not on the same day. And because it's the end of the year and it's a time to look back on all the good that we've harvested over the year, Brian put together a short vinyl tag of 10 records that he is grateful for. A tag of thanks. The Fitz Electric Bar gratitude tag. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but it was a great idea. And because he was so nice to support my channel, I absolutely want to support his. And I also want to have a moment to have some gratitude for some of my records. I think we all have heard this thing that if you are having a rough go at life in a particular chapter, if you take a moment to write down the things that you're grateful for, it can help you get out of a funk. And they say also that you can't be angry or upset and have gratitude at the same time. So I'm hoping that by participating in Brian's great idea, super great idea, Fitz, I will be able to be uplifted and take a little bit of joy from having some gratitude and acknowledging some of these great records. So Brian's specific idea, I think, was to find songs that we're particularly grateful for within albums, but I don't think there are any hard rules and we can choose albums or songs. And I think even Brian talked about certain moments in certain songs he's very grateful for because they just evoke such a feeling of, elation that he's particularly thankful for. I think I've got a few of those. I've bent the rules slightly, but I'm just gonna go ahead and get going with the first record here by our old friend John Prine. This is a greatest hits record, Prine, that I bought in 2003 for $2.99, and I am so grateful to have this record in my collection. Now, I may have never come to know John Prine if it weren't for a special someone who insisted that I get into John Prine. She was somebody in my life who I probably drugged to the record store against her will, and she was a couple years older than me and certainly a couple of years smarter than me, specifically musically. And she was going through the bins and she said, "Take this home. Your collection needs this." I said, "I don't think I need this." She said, "Well, trust me, you do." And thank goodness she did, because John Prine is Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's a songwriter. Probably he influenced not only a generation, but generations. Probably some of the people that I'm going to feature on this list have been inspired by John Prine. Everybody from Bob Dylan to Johnny Cash. I even read that Roger Waters didn't really enjoy Radiohead as much as he enjoyed a good old John Prine record. This one is just a greatest hits, but it's got the classics that I love on it. It's got Sam Stone, it's got Illegal Smile, it's got Hello in there. These are almost like standard songs. They're so excellent. And he is just the epitome of good old America at its best. But one song in particular on here, The Great Compromise. I met a girl who was almost a lady. He is singing about losing love. And there's this great little tale about how he goes off to go get some popcorn at the drive-in, and when he comes back, she jumped into a foreign sports car. I mean, the sentimentality, the humor, the melancholy, the real human spirit that you find in John Prine's songs is so honest and so endearing. I just love John Prine. This album brought me to Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska. It brought me to Greg Brown, an amazing artist who I really love. If you don't know Greg Brown, he's considered like another godfather of folk music. It brought me to Gordon Lightfoot. It brought me probably all over the place. A really important artist in my collection. And that tune, Great Compromise, I learned it on guitar, and it was one of the first tunes that I ever learned. They're all simple, 1-4-5, simple turnaround tunes. And man, he's just the greatest. So John Prine. Next up, I have got good old Living in a Material World by George Harrison. Hey, welcome back. This record sits beside All Things Must Pass, and I probably scored this back in the day. It looks like my price tag is $5 on here. I maybe just ignored this one and listened to All Things Must Pass for years and years. I probably put it on and wasn't that impressed with it. It was only recently that I really fell in love with this record. I think it was during the Get Back series during the pandemic, and I watched George struggle to find his footing in with John and Paul, and I've always been a really big George fan, and my favorite Beatles record is probably the White Album, and I love the sitar on the albums, and I loved Tomorrow Never Knows and some of those early mystical Eastern crazy sounding songs. I bought a lot of those Ravi Shankar records, and I'm a George guy. I love John and Paul and Ringo, but I get George. I love his sense of humor. I love his sardonic attitude, and he's just the coolest. And there's so many great songs on this record, starting with Give Me Love, and then you've got Sue Me and Living in a Material World, the title track. But the song that really stands out to me is Who Can See It? Now, I misheard the lyrics of this song for years and years. He sings it in this way that you can't quite catch the lyric. He says, my life belongs to me and all who see it. I always thought he said that my life belongs to you and all who see it. And I thought it was this sort of feeling of surrender, of giving oneself completely, a sort of mindful Eastern concept. And I thought it was just completely a noble lyric in a song. And it wasn't until I really listened to it again recently where he says, my life belongs to me and all who see it. And I heard that lyric as a catharsis, a moment where he has let go of his former Beatle self and has embraced his new identity. He got his life back from the Beatles. Now, I love the Beatles and I love George and the Beatles, but you can imagine what it must have been like to be in the Beatles as George Harrison and, being misjudged and miscalculated and, railroaded by John and Paul. And so I feel like this is a place of arrival for him, and this tune in particular, Who Can See It is the name of the song, is just a great one. The new remastered, remixed version of this that just came out a couple of weeks ago, I didn't get it, but I probably should because I love this record, maybe even more than All Things Must Pass. I think it is a fantastic record, and I've given away a handful of copies for friends who don't know it. So the next record that I pulled out was, I thought, Blonde on Blonde. I thought I had to count this one as records that I'm thankful for. And of course I am thankful for this, but I was fishing around in the song Visions of Johanna, one of the most incredible songs. And I was looking for the lyric, darkness at the break of noon, shadows both the silver spoon, the handmade blade, the child's balloon, eclipses both the sun and moon. To know too soon, there's no sense in trying. I was looking for that and I was listening to it. It suddenly dawned on me, wait a second, this is not the song that lyric is in. And right as I had that thought, the lyric, the ghost of electricity howls in the bones of her face, comes on. And I thought, oh my God, it is one of those songs. And I thought, what song is it? The Darkness at the Break of Noon song. And I realized it was actually on Bringing It All Back Home. Both of my copies are ridiculously tattered, and the wax is fine, but I've had these for years and years. They've been written on. This one was once owned by John Cohn, and this one was owned by somebody Schultz, and there's just ringware coming out your ears and seam splits. But these were probably two records that I did that old thing where you stop the record player and listen again, and you write down the lyric, and you suddenly have written 10 verses, and you're like, how many verses is this song? And you keep writing them, and you're just blown away by the genius of poetry that Dylan is. I don't know which one to pick, but I've just got to be grateful for both of them. It's All Right, Ma, of course, is the tune with that lyric. And there's a great little 60 Minutes video where the interviewer says, isn't it amazing that you wrote those lyrics? And Dylan says, I don't know who wrote those songs. And he says, what do you mean you don't know who wrote those songs? He says, well, those songs came from kind of a magical place. And he says, what do you mean? Didn't you write those lyrics? And he says, darkness at the break of noon, shadows both the silver spoon, the handmade blade, the child's balloon, eclipses both the sun and moon. To know too soon, there's no sense in trying. You try to sit down and write something like that. And he says, those come from a kind of a magical place. They took a special kind of magic. And I'm not talking about no Siegfried and Roy magic. I'm talking about a penetrating magic. Man, it's just that tune it's one of those songs that has like 14 verses, and it's so good. And of course this has Maggie's Farm and It's All Right, Gates of Eden. Oh, Blonde on Blonde, of course, has Rainy Day Women on it. And that's probably what 18-year-old Brian wanted from this record, along with Leopard Skin Pillbox, Just Like a Woman. My goodness, Visions of Johanna that knocked my socks off, and It's All Right, Ma, off of Bringing It All Back Home. I'm thankful for the opportunity to write down those lyrics. That's really connecting with the song, and I'm grateful for that. So those are those two. Next album has got to be the song specifically, Into the Mystic, off of Van Morrison's 1970, 69 Moondance, that it looks like I bought for $1 on clearance at Amoeba. Again, like seam splits and everything, but hey, I bought this when I was so stoked to have this record. And the reason I'm thankful for this record is because it takes me back to a special someone in my life. This was like our song. It was so fun to have a song with somebody and to have it be a good song and to have it be, the tune, we were born before the wind, oh, so younger than the sun, and the body both was one as we sailed into the mystic. And it bam, bam, ba da ba ba da with those trumpets. I just am so grateful that I have music that goes back, important music that goes back to so far in my life. And this is one of those songs, and this is one of those albums. I actually came to know this song by this sort of terrible movie that I actually love called Dream a Little Dream with Corey Feldman and Meredith Salinger. Kind of a John Hughes film, but I don't think it's done by John Hughes. Harry Dean, what's his name? Harry Dean's in it. Jason Robarb's in it. Really good cast. And this sort of time slip, fun movie. It's featured in that movie, and I kind of love to revisit it. And yeah, great song. Grateful for that one. The next one, oh my God. So I knew, my introduction to Pink Floyd was Dark Side, The Wall, maybe Division Bell, maybe Momentary Lapse of Reason. It was the later stuff, and I had to go backwards to Pink Floyd. I was sitting on the banks. Oh my God, look how cool these guys are. Oh my God. So I was sitting on the banks of the Ganges River with my Italian friend Ram. We were playing guitar on a blanket, and he was saying, we gotta make a song, and let's make the lyric that you don't fall down, let's fall up to the sky. And he was telling me about how this is how Jimi Hendrix did it, and that's how it's done in the song Fearless off of Metal. And I said, what's Metal? And he was Metal, and he's like, you don't know Metal? Pink Floyd Metal? Don't you know Metal? I'm like, I don't know Metal. And he was like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? I just absolutely love this record. One of probably your favorites as well. But yeah, the side 2 has the entire Echoes suite of crazy music. First side also is great, but the tune Fearless is just so cool, and I love the droning sense of the guitar, and I love the footballers chant that comes on at the end. It's just great, and it takes me back to that moment where I was hanging out with my buddy Ram, and it just gives me a sense of gratitude that I'm still friends with Ram, and that he turned me on to this masterpiece by Pink Floyd, Metal, from, I'm gonna guess again, 69, maybe 70. Dang, these guys are cool. Okay, moving on. Next one. I'm pulling out, it's getting a little cheesy here, I admit, but this is actually, the disc that I wanted to pull out is a compilation called Negotiations and Love Songs by Paul Simon, but the tune off of that, which I don't own on vinyl, is Hearts and Bones. So I pulled out the record itself, Hearts and Bones by Paul Simon. I knew Simon and Garfunkel, and then I probably knew all this Paul Simon solo stuff, but I think this was kind of like a middle era that I didn't come back to Paul Simon until we got Graceland. So this was something that came, and went without much notice from me, but I was probably too young to really appreciate this. 83. Album, you've got Hearts and Bones, you've got Train in the Distance, you've got Renee and Georgia Magritte with their dog after the war. The tune Hearts and Bones is just such a killer tune. Hearts and Bones is this love story of Paul and Carrie Fisher. And it starts off as one and one half wandering Jews, free to wander wherever they roam. It's the story of their love affair. They are traveling together in the Sangre de Cristo, Blood of Christ mountains of New Mexico, where I have been many, many times with some people and some special friends and some special someones who turned me on to those songs. And this really gives me a moment to reflect on them. It's such a sweet and sentimental and heartfelt song, and I love, of course, all of Paul Simon's discography, but I do kind of love these years that he just was kind of like in between the Paul Simon that we would eventually know and this Paul Simon from Simon and Garfunkel. Hearts and Bones, gorgeous, gorgeous tune. And Renee and Georgia Magritte, I mean, that's Renee Magritte, the artist, the apple with the apple with the bowler hat. So that's a fun one to think about. And Train in the Distance. Everybody loves the sound of a train in the distance. Everybody thinks it's true. I think that's the lyric. Great. Couple of great songs. Okay, you're gonna find this hard to believe because I'm getting even more sentimental here. You'll never believe it, but I'm going to Billy Joel, The Stranger. Okay, there's really only one tune on here. There's probably, the whole album is probably great. Moving Out, I'm moving out. It's not on here, the tune that I'm searching for? Just the Way You Are. There it is, Just the Way You Are. Okay, so Just the Way You Are. Do 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 do. Don't go changing. Da-da-da-da-da. I love you just the way you are. That is the Photo Hoku, my volunteer project theme song. I don't know exactly why it became the theme song of our band of photography people, but it did. And we've played it on guitars and we've sung it as a group and we've actually had some tearful moments with it. It's kind of a message that we think about when we're making a photo of somebody, and we can see the beauty in them no matter what they are, who they look like, whether they're having a good day or a bad day. We love them just the way they are. So this is a special tune for me because it is the theme song of the volunteer project, Photo Hoku. Just the way you are. And it's got a Fender Rhodes on it, which I absolutely love. I used to have a Fender Rhodes with a twin reverb, and he's got a phaser on here. He's got the orange, which one is that? He's got the orange phaser on here, and he's the guy, I think he's the guy who kind of like invented that sound, that woo, that Rhodes sound that you know so well. I think it came from this song. Good album, come on, give it up for Billy Joel. This is a good one. Okay, next, we're getting here towards the end. Okay, I am thankful for Rattle and Hum by U2. I know I'm just staying here in the mainstream, but I love this record from 1988. This is my favorite U2 record. I know it might be hard to believe. Love the Joshua Tree, love Octung Baby, love the earlier stuff, love the later stuff too, but this one is the one that binds them all together. I freaking love this song. Now this came after Joshua Tree. It's sort of the soundtrack of the movie. I've actually, believe it or not, never seen the movie. I should see it. But it was filmed at McNichols Arena in Denver, and they were hoping lightning would strike twice because they had this amazing show at Red Rocks. And there's a part where Bono says, like, "This is Red Rocks, this is the edge." And that's a famous little lyric that pops up in my world of Fish and other things. The songs on here are absolutely killer. Helter Skelter, Charles Manson stole this one from the Beatles, we're stealing it back. Van Diemen's Land, I'm coming back to this one. Desire, Hawk Moon. Hawk Moon is about Rapid City, South Dakota. I lived in Rapid City, South Dakota for a summer, long story. Angel of Harlem, Rescue Me, When Love Comes to Town with B.B. King. I think Love Rescue Me is written with Dylan, and they did a recording with Dylan, and it didn't make it onto the album because of contractual agreements, but apparently there's a version out there with Dylan singing on. I'm pretty sure that's Love Rescue Me. All Along the Watchtower, I mean, come on. Still haven't found what I'm looking for. Freedom for My People, that little funky mix thing that's in between. Silver and Gold, Pride, In the Name of Love. Star Spangled Banner, Bullet the Blue Sky, All I Want Is You. So great. Produced by Jimmy Iovine. But the tune Van Diemen's Land, okay? What's Van Diemen's Land? Now, I was really curious about this tune because Van Diemen's Land, hold me now, oh, hold me now, until the da 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 da. It's this folk standard arranged by The Edge. Van Diemen's Land is Tasmania, and it was the penal colony of the penal colony. You know, the Brits sent their criminals to Australia, and the Australians sent their criminals to Tasmania. There was a terminology that if you went before the magistrate and he condemned you to transportation, I think it was called, or exportation, I forget how they framed it, but it was a death sentence, essentially, and they sent you off to Tasmania to live in these penal worlds where there were slave labor and these terrible working conditions. And if you spoke out against the British kingdom or the government, you may be subject to getting deported to Van Diemen's Land, even if you weren't really a violent criminal or didn't necessarily deserve to go there. Now, the reason I'm thankful for it is a little bit embarrassing because I think I had this on cassette, and I was in my room once. I was probably 13 years old, 12, 13 years old, and I was listening to it on headphones. And I was laying on my floor and I was singing it with my eyes closed. Hold me now, oh, hold me now. And I was so feeling this song. And I got to the end of the song and I opened my eyes, and all 6 of my other family members were standing in the doorway laughing at me. I didn't realize they had been there watching me the entire time. And it was traumatic. I'll admit, it was a traumatic experience. And I probably have a few of these in my life, which is the way that I am. But to be honest, I am grateful for that moment because it tells me that I loved this music so much that I sang it unabashedly at the top of my lungs. Maybe I wouldn't have done it if, I had people watching me, but still, I just connected with that tune, which is sung by The Edge and one of the only tunes that he sings, Van Diemen's Land. If you've never heard the tune, I highly recommend it and read the lyrics along because it's kind of a sad story and you can relate to the protagonist in the story. Rattle and Hum, Van Diemen's Land from 1988. Okay, two more. I gotta go quickly with Ween's Chocolate and Cheese, 95. This is the deluxe repress that just came out. Rhino did it. A really nice repress. I have an original, but it's really nice to have the new one. Our heroes, Dean and Gene Ween. I mean, a really great album, a wild ride from beginning to end. But the tune that I am particularly thankful for, Baby Bitch, is so heavy and pointed and intense of a song, a breakup song. Baby, 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 bitch. Fuck you, you stinking ass. Pretty intense, and it got me through a breakup. It got me through a bad breakup. And I'm not proud to love it for that reason, but it helped me. And I used to grit my teeth and sing those lyrics and just get over a really terrible breakup. So I gotta thank Ween. I got a little gratitude for this song that got me through a tough moment. Baby Bitch. Baby, 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 bitch. He really leans into it. Okay, last one. This one is really, I'm so happy to share this one. This one is Tom Waits' Bone Machine. I was looking for this record for ages and ages and ages. It used to be a very, very rare record. Only a German pressing existed. There weren't that many copies of it. Always super expensive. And finally, it got repressed on a big island repressing of all of Tom Waits' Island Years records, and I managed to score one. The Earth Died Screaming. This is such an intense, great, heavy, in-your-face record. Dirt in the ground, we'll all be dirt in the ground. All stripped down, all stripped down, all stripped down. Tom at his Tommiest. It's really intense. In the Coliseum. In the Coliseum tonight. The tune on here that I'm so thankful for is That Feel. That Feel is the last song on Bone Machine. It is such a melancholy ballad of longing and yearning for that feel. That feel, we gotta hang on to that feel. It's all we got left is that feel. Actually, Keith Richards comes and makes a little cameo on this song and they sing it in harmony and it's so good. It's so great. The song goes, if there's one thing you can't lose, it's that feel. And Keith Richards comes in on this like almost piratey guitar. They sing it to, it's so good. I was playing piano online one time, a Tom Waits tune, and my friend and hero, Dave Willey of the Hamster Theater, Thinking Plague, and lots of amazing bands. Dave Willey, a musical visionary, somebody who I'm so fortunate to call my friend, tuned into my live stream and said, hey, nice rendition of that Tom song. And I was like, oh my God, it's Dave Willey. Oh my God, Dave. And he's like, get over it, man. Just like chill out. I'm not like, but he is a musical genius. And go listen to Hamster Theater if you don't believe me. He writes all the parts. He plays accordion. He plays everything. But he has this crazy, crazy band called Hamster Theater. One of my all-time favorite bands out of Denver. He said to me, why don't you go play That Feel? And I said, okay, I don't know That Feel. And he's like, yeah, it's on Bone Machine. I was like, I kind of don't know Bone Machine that well. He's like, that's the best Tom Waits song ever. So I went and listened to it and I tried to play it and he got online and I said, hey, I learned the song and I played. He said, no, you're playing it all wrong. And I said, okay, how do I play it better? And he gave me a few tips. He said, you gotta get the first part right. I make no, claim that I'm a good singer or a good musician. You've already heard me out of key on this very video a couple of times. But he said, go do it. And I said, okay, I'm going to try. And he kept asking me to do it. And then he finally said to me, hey, go record it, get a good copy of it and send it to me, and I'll sing Keith Richards' part on it. And I was like, oh my God, that's the nicest thing that anybody's ever said to me in like a musical thing. To have like your musical hero say to you, I'll pitch in on that. I'll sing Keith Richards to your Tom Waits. I was so chuffed. Oh my God. So touched. And it just gave me giant tsunami of good vibes and gratitude for that little moment. I won't forget that. And to be honest, I'm still working on it. I feel like it might be a lifetime pursuit. Okay, I've gone on entirely too long, but those are my 10, 11 records. Very last one. I don't have it on wax, but I got to give a shout out to my homie Trace Altman of the Paper Stars. The Paper Stars followed the band Still Life, which was my band with Trace. These are some incredible songs that are inspired by all of the albums that I've mentioned tonight. Trace is an amazing songwriter and one of my dearest buds. And this is a rather old record of his, but it's got some of the songs that we used to play together. Moving On, Tornadoes in the Snow, Lachodrome, Hummingbird, Once Upon a Time, all really great songs. I played Fender Rhodes. I kind of played like a bass Fender Rhodes in that band. And Trace played guitar and sang, and he said to me, hey, I want you to be in my band. I said, I can't play in your band, I'm fucking crap. And he said, no, dude, I want you to be my Meg White, you know, I want you to play crappy piano. I said, I don't think so. And the girl who introduced me to this, John Prine, said, you gotta do this. This is what you've been wanting to do your whole life. You gotta go play in this band. So I am incredibly grateful to Trace Altman of the Paper Stars. The Paper Stars are still around, Still Life lives half in Japan and half in America. Who knows if they will ever reband, but very grateful for the Paper Stars. Okay, thank you so much for indulging me on another video. I hope you could feel my gratitude. I'm very happy and thankful to be able to share these records, and to Brian, aka Fitz, of Fitz Electric Bar, for putting forth this great idea. I really had fun doing it. Thank you, Brian, and thank you for participating in the Japan Vinyl Tag. And you know, finally, I'll say I appreciate you, Brian. I appreciate you for being such a mensch and such a good dude. And I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful that we'll get to be pals for hopefully many more years to come. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I had a great time. Okay, until next time, I'll see you at the record store. Bye!